I was 12 when I learned that being the good daughter was actually a curse disguised as a compliment. My name is Marlene, and I should probably start by saying that I never wanted to be the responsible one. It just happened. While my little brother Colton was busy charming everyone with his gap-toothed grin and getting away with everything from broken vases to failing grades, I was the one quietly cleaning up the mess, literally and figuratively. Marlene will understand became my mother's favorite phrase. Marlene doesn't mind. Marlene can handle it. Well, guess what? Marlene minded a lot, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you about the phone call that changed everything. It was a Tuesday morning, and I was reviewing quarterly reports when my phone buzzed. Mom's contact photo, her beaming at last year's Christmas dinner while I stood awkwardly in the background, filled the screen. Marlene, honey, can you come over? We need to talk. The tremor in her voice made my stomach drop. What's wrong? Just, please come. Your father and I were in a bit of a situation. An hour later, I stood in the doorway of their rental house, taking in the scene. Mom sat on their sagging couch, tissues scattered around her like fallen snow. Dad paced behind her, his usually neat hair disheveled. We're going to lose the house, Mom said, without preamble, fresh tears streaming down her cheeks. I felt that familiar weight settle on my shoulders. What happened? Dad stopped pacing. The landlord's selling. We have 60 days to find somewhere else, but with our credit. He trailed off, shaking his head. We've looked everywhere, Mom continued. Nobody will rent to us, not after the bankruptcy. Right, the bankruptcy that happened because they co-signed on Colton's car loan when he defaulted. The bankruptcy I'd warned them about. What about Colton? Can he help? Mom's face crumpled further. He's got his own problems right now. You know how hard it's been for him to find steady work? Of course. Colton's problems were always more important than anyone else's. We were thinking, Dad said carefully, maybe you could help us find a place. Something small, nothing fancy. I waited. There was more coming. Or maybe, Mom's voice got smaller, maybe you could buy something, just temporarily, until we get back on our feet. There it was. The ask I'd been dreading my entire adult life. You want me to buy you a house? Not for us, Dad said quickly. For the family. You'd live there too, of course. It would be our home. Our home. The words should have warmed me, but instead they felt like a trap snapping shut. I looked around their cramped rental, at the water stain on the ceiling, the peeling linoleum, the stack of overdue bills on the kitchen counter. Then I looked at my parents, both in their late 50s, both looking at me with the same desperate hope I'd seen countless times before. I'll need to think about it, I said. Of course, sweetheart. Take all the time you need. Mom reached for my hand. We don't have anyone else to turn to. The guilt hit like a physical blow. This was my family. These were the people who'd raised me, fed me, loved me in their own complicated way. How could I say no? 2 weeks later, I found myself signing papers on a 3-bedroom house in a quiet suburban neighborhood. The realtor, Riley, was professional and kind, walking me through every detail. It's a great starter home, she said as we did the final walkthrough. Perfect for a young family. I nodded, pen hovering over the signature line. The house was beautiful. Hardwood floors, updated kitchen, a master bedroom with an ensuite bathroom. For a moment I let myself imagine it. My books on the built-in shelves, my coffee mug on the granite countertop, my clothes in the walk-in closet. Just to confirm, Riley said, the deed will be in your name only? Yes, I said firmly, just mine. I signed with a flourish, feeling something I hadn't felt in years, pride. I'd done it. I'd saved my family. That evening, I called my parents with the good news. "Oh, Marlene," Mom sobbed into the phone. "Thank you, thank you. I can't wait to see our new home." Our home. There it was again. As I hung up, a small voice in the back of my mind whispered a warning, but I pushed it down, choosing instead to focus on the hope blooming in my chest. Maybe this time would be different. Maybe this time I'd finally earn my place in the family. I should have listened to that voice. Moving day arrived with all the chaos I should have expected. I took the day off work to coordinate everything while Mom and Dad showed up with a U-Haul that looked like it had survived several apocalypses. Colton was supposed to help, but he texted at the last minute. "Can't make it today. Yesenia's not feeling well. You got this, though." Of course. "Where's Colton?" Dad asked, struggling with a box marked Nancy's knickknacks. "He's busy," I said, grabbing the other end. Mom appeared in the doorway, already directing traffic like she owned the place. "Lyle, that box goes in the living room. Marlene, honey, where should we put the good china?" "Wherever you think is best," I said, juggling my laptop bag and a box of my own belongings. "Oh, this is perfect." Mom spun around the empty living room, arms outstretched. "I can already see where everything will go. The couch here, my grandmother's cabinet there." I watched her claim the space with an efficiency that made my chest tight. Within hours, the house had transformed. Mom's floral curtains replaced the neutral blinds I'd liked. Dad's recliner dominated the living room corner. Their wedding photos lined the mantel. "Where should I put this?" I held up my college diploma. Mom glanced at it absently. "Oh, maybe in your room? We don't want to clutter up the common areas." My room, right. By evening, I was exhausted. I'd spent the day moving furniture, setting up utilities, and fielding calls for my actual job. Mom and Dad had settled into the living room with takeout Chinese, feet up, looking more relaxed than I'd seen them in months. "This is nice," Dad said, clicking through TV channels. "Really nice, Marlene. Thank you." "It feels like home already," Mom added, then called toward the kitchen. "Marlene, could you grab us some napkins?" I brought the napkins, then retreated to my room, the smallest of the three bedrooms, but it had a nice window and built-in desk. I was hanging up my work clothes when I heard Mom on the phone. "Oh, Susan, you have to come see it. It's absolutely perfect. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and the kitchen is to die for." I paused, shirt halfway to the closet. "Well, of course we're grateful to Marlene. She's always been such a helper. We're so lucky she could make this work for us." Make this work for us, not us, for them. The next few weeks fell into a routine. I'd leave for work at 7:30, come home to find Mom rearranging furniture or Dad puttering in the garage. They'd settled in completely, hosting their friends for coffee, planning a garden, talking about painting the guest room. "Which guest room?" I asked one evening over dinner. "The middle bedroom," Mom said. "We thought a nice sage green would be lovely." "That's my office." "Oh." Mom blinked. "Well, you don't really need a whole room for an office, do you? You have that nice desk in your bedroom." I met my best friend Celeste for coffee the following Saturday. She took one look at my face and ordered me a double shot. "You look like hell," she said, settling into the chair across from me. "Thanks. That's exactly what I needed to hear." "I'm serious, Marlene. What's going on?" I told her everything. The constant request to grab this or fix that. The way Mom introduced me to her friends as our daughter who helps us so much. The gradual erasure of my presence in my own house. "Wait," Celeste held up a hand. "Back up. Whose name is on the deed?" "Mine." "Just yours?" "Just mine." "Then what the hell are you complaining about? It's your house. Act like it." "It's not that simple. They're my parents, who are treating you like a live-in maid." Celeste leaned forward. "When's the last time they asked how your day was? When's the last time they cooked dinner or cleaned the bathroom? I opened my mouth to answer, then closed it. Exactly. Celeste stirred her latte aggressively. You bought them a house, Marlene? The least they could do is treat you like you lived there, too. That evening, I came home to find the living room full of people I didn't recognize. Mom was holding court in the kitchen, showing off the granite countertops. Marlene, she waved me over. Come meet the Hendersons from down the street. This is our daughter, the one who helps us so much. Mrs. Henderson smiled warmly. How wonderful that you all found such a lovely place together. Oh, we're so blessed, Mom gushed. Marlene is just lucky to be included in our little family setup. The words hit me like a slap. Lucky to be included in my own house. I excused myself and went to my room, closing the door firmly behind me. Through the thin walls, I could hear Mom's voice carrying on about our beautiful home and how grateful we are. I sat on my bed, staring at the mortgage statement on my nightstand. My name, my credit, my responsibility. But somehow I was lucky to be included. Sunday dinner at my house had become a weekly tradition, though I wasn't sure when I'd agreed to it. Mom insisted on cooking, which meant I got to clean up afterward while she and Dad relaxed. I was setting the table when Colton finally showed up, 3 weeks after move-in day. He walked through the front door like he owned the place, Yesenia trailing behind him with her hand resting on her barely visible bump. Wow, this place is amazing! Colton whistled, spinning around the living room. Way nicer than I expected. Thanks, I said dryly. I picked it out myself. The kitchen is gorgeous, Yesenia added, running her fingers along the granite countertop. You have such good taste, Nancy. Mom beamed. Thank you, dear. I've always had an eye for these things. I gripped the dinner plates a little tighter. So, Colton plopped down in Dad's recliner. What's the deal with the extra bedrooms? You guys thinking of taking in boarders or something? Mom and Dad exchanged a look across the room, the kind of look that made my stomach drop. Actually, Mom said, wringing her hands, we wanted to talk to everyone about something. She waited until we were all seated around the dining table, plates full of her famous pot roast. Colton was already on his second helping while Yesenia picked delicately at her vegetables. Colton has some news, Mom announced, practically vibrating with excitement. We're having a baby, Yesenia burst out, then immediately looked embarrassed. I mean, we already told you that part, but the thing is, Colton interrupted, our lease is up next month, and with the baby coming, we really need to save money. Here it comes, I thought. So we were hoping, Dad said carefully, that maybe they could stay here for a while, just until they get on their feet. It would be temporary, Mom rushed to add, just until after the baby comes and Colton finds something more stable. I looked around the table. Everyone was staring at me expectantly. Where exactly would they sleep? Well, Mom's voice got higher. We thought they could take the master bedroom, since they'll need the space for the baby and all. The master bedroom, I repeated slowly. My bedroom. Now, before you get upset, Dad held up his hands. We've already figured out a solution. The basement has that nice finished area. We could set you up down there real cozy like. The basement. It's not that bad, Colton said around a mouthful of pot roast. Kind of like having your own apartment. With no windows, I said. There's that little one by the ceiling, Mom pointed out helpfully. Yesenia reached across the table and patted my hand. Marlene, you're such a lifesaver. I don't know what we would have done without family to help us. I stared down at her manicured fingers on my hand. When would this happen? Well, Mom bit her lip. We were hoping maybe this week. Yesenia's been having some morning sickness and the stress of moving this week. I pulled my hand away from Yesenia's. You want me to move to the basement this week? We've already started clearing some things out. Dad said quickly, just to make the transition easier. The room went silent except for the sound of Colton chewing. You already started moving my stuff. Just a few things, Mom said. Your winter clothes, some books. We put them in nice boxes. I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the hardwood floor. Excuse me. I walked upstairs to my bedroom, my former bedroom apparently, and pushed open the door. Half my closet was empty. My dresser drawers hung open, mostly bare. A stack of boxes sat in the corner, labeled in Mom's careful handwriting. Marlene's books, Marlene's sweaters, Marlene's misc. We were going to ask first, Mom's voice came from behind me, but we thought it would be easier if we just got started. I turned around. She stood in the doorway, wringing her hands again. Easier for who? For everyone. You know how you hate making decisions about this kind of stuff. I hate making decisions about my own belongings. You know what I mean. You're always so practical about these things. Footsteps on the stairs announced the arrival of the others. Colton appeared first, followed by Dad and Yesenia. The basement's really not that bad, Colton said, clearly trying to help. Remember when I used to hide down there during thunderstorms? You were 8, I said. Still, it's got character. Yesenia stepped forward, one hand on her stomach. Marlene, I hope you know how much this means to us. Starting a family is so expensive, and having somewhere safe to stay. Her eyes filled with tears. You're going to be such an amazing aunt. Everyone was looking at me again, waiting for me to be practical, waiting for me to understand. Fine, I heard myself say. Fine, I'll move to the basement. Mom's face lit up. Oh, sweetheart, thank you. I knew you'd understand. We'll help you move your stuff, Dad offered. Don't bother. I'll handle it myself. That night I carried box after box down to the basement, my footsteps echoing in the unfinished space. The ceiling was low, the air was musty, and that tiny window Dad had mentioned barely let in any light. I set up my bed in the corner and hung my clothes on a tension rod between 2 support beams. My college diploma went on a folding table that served as both desk and nightstand. Upstairs I could hear Colton and Yesenia laughing about something, their voices carrying through the thin floor. Mom was running water in the kitchen, probably cleaning up the dinner dishes I'd abandoned. I sat on my bed and looked around my new space. Concrete walls, exposed pipes, and the faint smell of mildew. This was what being practical got you. The basement was freezing at 6 a.m. I'd been living down there for 2 weeks, and my body still hadn't adjusted to the constant chill that seeped through the concrete walls. I was getting dressed for work when footsteps thundered across the ceiling above me, followed by Yesenia's voice. Colton, can you grab my prenatal vitamins from the kitchen? More footsteps, cabinet doors slamming, the coffee maker gurgling to life. I climbed the stairs and found Colton standing in front of the open refrigerator in his boxers and a t-shirt. Morning, I said, reaching around him for the milk. Oh, hey. He didn't move. Could you grab me some of that orange juice? The good stuff, not the cheap kind. I stared at him. The good stuff that I bought? Yeah, thanks. He wandered back toward the stairs, already dismissing me. I made my coffee and toast, trying to ignore the sounds coming from upstairs. Yesenia's morning routine apparently involved a lot of singing and what sounded like furniture being moved around. Marlene? Mom's voice drifted down from the kitchen. Could you turn your music down? Yesenia's trying to rest. I wasn't playing any music. The sound she was hearing was my alarm clock radio, barely audible even to me. Sure, I called back, then turned it off completely. 20 minutes later, I was heading out the door when Colton appeared at the top of the basement stairs. Hey, before you go, do you think you could pick up some of those crackers Yesenia likes? The expensive ones from Whole Foods? The ones that cost $12 a box? Yeah, those. She's been really nauseous, and they're the only thing that helps. I looked at him standing there in yesterday's clothes, hair sticking up, asking me to spend $12 on crackers for his pregnant wife while he remained unemployed. Sure, I said. Work was my refuge. 8 hours where nobody asked me for anything, where I could focus on spreadsheets and quarterly reports instead of the circus happening in my house. But even there, the reminders followed me. My coworker Janet stopped by my desk around lunch. "How's the new living situation working out?" she asked. "It must be nice having your family so close." "It's great," I lied. "And a baby on the way." "How exciting." "You'll be such a hands-on aunt." That afternoon, I got a text from Mom. "Can you stop at the hardware store? Colton wants to paint the nursery this weekend. Need primer and brushes." The nursery, in what used to be my office. I came home that evening to find the house smelling like Chinese takeout. The family was gathered around the dining table, cartons spread across the surface. "Marlene!" Mom waved me over. Perfect timing. We ordered way too much food. I sat down and reached for the lo mein container, but Yesenia got there first. "Oh, sorry," she said, not sounding sorry at all. "I'm eating for two now, you know." Colton laughed. "She's been saying that about everything. Ice cream, pizza, those crackers you bought." "Speaking of which," Dad said, "we need to talk about expenses." Here we go. "With Colton and Yesenia staying here, the utility bills have gone up quite a bit," Mom explained. "The electric bill alone was almost double last month." "Okay," I said carefully. "So we were thinking," Dad continued, "maybe everyone could chip in a little more, since you're essentially renting the basement space." Renting the basement space. "Well, not renting exactly," Mom said quickly. "More like contributing your fair share." "My fair share of what?" "Utilities, groceries, household expenses," Colton listed off. The stuff everyone uses." I looked around the table. "Everyone meaning the people living in my house?" "Our house," Mom corrected gently. "We're all family here." "Right, family." I stood up. "How much?" "We were thinking maybe $400 a month," Dad said. "That seems fair, considering." $400 to live in my own basement? "It's not just the basement," Yesenia said. "You use the kitchen, the living room, the bathrooms. It's only fair that you contribute." I excused myself and went downstairs, closing the door firmly behind me. My phone buzzed immediately, a text from Celeste. "Coffee tomorrow? You sound stressed in your texts." I typed back, "Definitely. I need to show you something." The next morning, I met Celeste at our usual spot. She took one look at me and ordered a double espresso without asking. "You look like you haven't slept in days." "I haven't. The pipes run right over my bed. Every time someone flushes a toilet, it sounds like a freight train." "Jesus, Marlene, this is insane." I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos I'd taken the night before. My makeshift bedroom in the basement, the boxes of my belongings stacked in corners, the single tiny window near the ceiling. "They want me to pay rent," I said. $400 a month to live in my own basement while my brother and his wife take over my bedroom." Celeste stared at the photos. "Please tell me you're joking." I wish I was. "Whose name is on the deed, Marlene?" "Mine." "Say it louder." "Mine." "Then what the hell are you doing living like a troll under a bridge?" She leaned across the table. "You own that house. You make the rules." I pulled out the folder I brought with me, copies of all the paperwork from the house purchase. The deed, the mortgage documents, the insurance papers, all with my name and only my name. Celeste flipped through them, her expression growing darker with each page. "They have no legal right to any of this," she said finally. "None. Zero. You could kick them all out tomorrow if you wanted to." "They're my family." Family doesn't charge you rent to live in your own house. She slapped the papers down on the table. When's the last time any of them said thank you? When's the last time they acknowledged that you saved their asses? I couldn't answer because I couldn't remember. You need to do something about this, Marlene, before it gets worse. What could be worse than this? Celeste's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then showed me the screen, a Facebook notification. Mom had posted a photo of the dining room captioned, "So blessed to have found our perfect family home. Can't wait to welcome our first grandbaby here." Our perfect family home. Not a single mention of who actually made it possible. That, Celeste said grimly, that could be worse. I started apartment hunting on my lunch breaks, scrolling through listings on my phone while eating sad desk salads. One-bedroom places in decent neighborhoods were going for twice what I'd expected, but I didn't care. I needed out. Looking at real estate, I looked up to find Riley standing beside my desk, holding a coffee and wearing that professional smile I remembered from the house closing. "Riley, what are you doing here?" "Client meeting upstairs. Saw you through the window and thought I'd say hi." She gestured at my phone screen. "Apartment hunting?" "Something like that." "Mind if I sit? I've got a few minutes." I closed the apartment app and nodded toward the empty chair. Riley settled in, studying my face with the same attention she'd given the house inspection reports. "How's the new place working out? Your family settling in okay?" "It's been an adjustment." "Ah." Riley's expression shifted slightly. "The kind of adjustment that has you looking at studio apartments during lunch?" I laughed despite myself. "Is it that obvious?" "I've been doing this for 8 years. Family real estate situations can get complicated fast." She leaned forward. "Want to talk about it?" So I told her. Everything. The basement, the rent demands, the gradual takeover of my own house. Riley listened without interrupting, occasionally nodding or making small sounds of understanding. "Jesus," she said when I finished, "they're charging you rent to live in your own house?" "Technically, it's a contribution to household expenses." "That's even worse." Riley pulled out her phone. "Can I ask you something? Do you have the deed with you?" "I keep copies in my desk." "Why?" "Because the market's insane right now. Houses in your neighborhood are selling for 30% above asking price, sometimes more." I stared at her. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you have options. More options than you think." Riley's voice was gentle but firm. "That house is yours, Marlene. Legally, completely, 100% yours. You could sell it tomorrow if you wanted to." "I can't just sell my family's house." "It's not their house. It's your house that they happen to be living in." The words hit me like cold water. Riley was right. It was my house, my mortgage, my responsibility, my decision. "Think about it," Riley said, standing up. "If you decide you want to explore your options, give me a call. The market won't stay this hot forever." That evening, I came home to find the living room transformed into what looked like a baby store explosion. Boxes everywhere, labeled with things like crib parts and changing table hardware. "There she is," Colton called from the floor, where he was surrounded by instruction manuals. "Perfect timing. We need someone with actual reading skills." "What's all this?" "Baby shower gifts." Yesenia beamed from the couch, one hand on her now visible bump. "Your mom threw us the most amazing party today." "My mom threw you a baby shower?" "It was so sweet," Mom said, emerging from the kitchen with a plate of cookies. "All the ladies from the neighborhood came. We raised almost $800. $800 for what?" "The nursery fund," Dad explained, looking up from a box labeled glider chair. "For all the things the baby will need." I looked around the chaos. Where exactly is all this going? The nursery, obviously, Yesenia said. We're thinking a jungle theme, lions and elephants and giraffes. In my office. The baby's room, Mom corrected. We can't keep calling it your office when there's going to be a crib in there. Colton held up an instruction manual. Hey, can you figure out step 7? This diagram makes no sense. I took the manual and stared at the incomprehensible drawing of crib parts. I'm not really good with this stuff. Come on, you're the smart one, Colton said. This is right up your alley? Actually, I'm pretty tired. I think I'll head downstairs. Oh, before you go, Mom said, we need to talk about the baby shower expenses. The decorations and food cost more than we expected. How much more? About $200. We thought maybe you could cover it, since you missed the party anyway. I stood there holding the crib instructions, surrounded by boxes of baby supplies for a nursery in my former office, being asked to pay for a party I wasn't invited to. Sure, I heard myself say. I'll write you a check. Later that night, I sat on my basement bed with my laptop, scrolling through apartment listings with new purpose. A cute one-bedroom with hardwood floors and actual windows caught my eye. The rent was steep but doable. I was about to close the laptop when I remembered Riley's words. I pulled up the real estate websites and searched for recent sales in my neighborhood. The numbers made me dizzy. Houses similar to mine were selling for almost double what I paid just months ago. I could sell, pay off the mortgage, and have enough left over for a down payment on a condo, maybe even enough to take a real vacation for the first time in years. My phone buzzed with a text from Celeste. How's the apartment hunt going? I stared at the message, then typed back, change of plans. Can you meet for coffee tomorrow? I need to run something by you. Everything okay? I looked around my basement bedroom, then up at the ceiling where I could hear Colton and Yesenia discussing paint colors for the nursery. Actually, I typed, I think everything might be about to get a lot better. The next morning, I called Riley before I even got out of bed. I want to know what my house is worth, I said without preamble. Good morning to you too, Riley laughed. I can have a market analysis ready by this afternoon. Are you seriously considering selling? I listened to the sounds of my family starting their day upstairs, the coffee maker, the shower running, Yesenia singing off-key in what used to be my bedroom. Yeah, I said, I think I am. Riley's market analysis made my hands shake. The house was worth nearly double what I'd paid for it, and she had 3 potential buyers already lined up. Cash offers, she explained over coffee. No inspections, no financing contingencies. We could close in 2 weeks if you want. 2 weeks? The market's that hot. I've got one buyer who's been looking in your neighborhood for months. They'd probably go 20,000 over asking just to lock it down. I stared at the numbers on the paper. After paying off the mortgage, I'd walk away with enough money to buy a condo outright and still have a substantial nest egg. What's the timeline if I wanted to move forward? I could have the listing live tomorrow, showings this weekend, offers by Monday. And the family living there? Riley's expression grew serious. Legally, you need to give them 30 days' notice. But Marlene, they're not tenants. They're guests in your house. You don't owe them anything beyond basic courtesy. That evening, I started quietly moving my most valuable possessions to a storage unit. Photo albums, important documents, my grandmother's jewelry. Celeste helped, covering for me when Mom called asking where I was. Tell her I'm working late, I whispered, loading boxes into Celeste's car. This is so satisfying, Celeste said, hefting a box of my books. I can't wait to see their faces. I'm not doing this for revenge. Sure you're not, she grinned. You're doing it for justice. There's a difference. Back at the house, the nursery preparations had reached fever pitch. I found Colton and Dad assembling a crib in my former office while Yesenia directed from a rocking chair. A little to the left, she was saying. No, too far. Back to the right. The walls were now painted a soft yellow with a border of cartoon animals. My built-in bookshelves had been cleared to make room for baby supplies. Looking good, I said from the doorway. Isn't it perfect? Yesenia beamed. I can already picture bringing the baby home to this room. Where did my books go? Oh, those old things? Mom appeared behind me with a trash bag. We donated most of them. You had so many duplicates. Duplicates? Well, books you probably read already. No point keeping them around when we need the space. I watched Dad tighten the screws on the crib rail. Which books did you donate? Just the ones that looked old or boring, Mom said dismissively. Don't worry, we kept the important ones. Like what? Mom looked flustered. Well, your college textbooks, of course. Those are in a box somewhere. My college textbooks. She kept my outdated accounting textbooks and donated my first edition novels, my poetry collections, my signed copies of books by authors I'd met at readings. The baby's going to love this room, Yesenia said, running her hand over the crib rail. It's going to be perfect for family photos. Speaking of family, Colton said, stepping back to admire their work, we've been talking about long-term plans. What kind of long-term plans? Well, with the baby coming and everything, we're thinking we might stay here for a few years, he said. Maybe turn the basement into a proper apartment for you. Add a kitchenette, maybe a separate entrance. Turn my basement into an apartment. It makes sense, Dad added. You'd have your own space. We'd have room for the baby to grow up. Win-win. And the best part, Mom chimed in, is that we could make it official. Draw up a real lease agreement. That way everyone knows what's expected. I stared at them. They were planning to convert my basement into a rental unit in my own house. How much rent were you thinking? I asked. We haven't worked out all the details, Colton said, but probably around $800 a month. That's fair for a one-bedroom apartment, right? $800 to live in my own basement, while they lived rent-free in the rest of my house. That sounds reasonable, I said. Later that night, I sat in my car outside the house talking to Riley on the phone. The listing goes live tomorrow morning, she said. I've already got showings scheduled for Saturday and Sunday. What if they're home during the showings? That's their problem. You're the owner. You have every right to show your house. Through the living room window, I could see my family gathered around the TV. Colton had his arm around Yesenia, her head on his shoulder. Mom and Dad were sharing a bowl of popcorn. They looked like a perfect family enjoying their perfect home. My perfect home. Riley? Yeah? Let's do this. The next morning, I left for work early and came home late, avoiding the inevitable questions about strangers walking through the house. But I couldn't avoid them forever. I was heating up leftover pizza in the microwave when Mom stormed into the kitchen, holding a business card. What is this? She demanded, waving the card in my face. I looked at it. Riley's card, with "For Sale," written in Mom's angry handwriting across the top. It's a business card. Don't get smart with me, Marlene. Why are real estate agents calling about our house? Because it's for sale. The microwave beeped. I took out my pizza and sat down at the kitchen table. Mom stared at me like I'd grown a second head. What do you mean it's for sale? I mean I'm selling it. You can't sell our house. It's not your house, Mom. It's my house, and I'm selling it. Footsteps thundered down the stairs. Colton appeared in the kitchen doorway, followed by Dad and Yesenia. What's all the yelling about? Colton asked. Your sister has lost her mind, Mom said. She thinks she's going to sell our house. I don't think I'm going to sell it, I said calmly, taking a bite of pizza. I am selling it. We close in 2 weeks. The silence that followed was deafening. The kitchen erupted. You can't be serious. Colton jumped up from his chair. We just finished the nursery. Marlene, honey, Dad's voice was strained. Let's talk about this rationally. Where are we supposed to go? Yesenia's eyes filled with tears. I'm 6 months pregnant. Mom slammed her hand on the counter. This is our home. You can't just throw us out on the street. I finished chewing my bite of pizza and looked around the table. Actually, I can. It's my house. We're family. Mom's voice cracked. Family doesn't do this to each other. You're right, I said. Family doesn't charge each other rent to live in their own basement. Family doesn't donate each other's books without asking. Family doesn't throw baby showers and stick the person who bought the house with the bill. Those are completely different things, Colton said. You're talking about making us homeless. I'm talking about selling my house. What you do after that is your problem. Yesenia started crying harder. But the baby will be fine, I interrupted. You have 2 weeks to figure it out. That's more notice than most people get. Dad tried a different approach. Marlene, I know we haven't always appreciated everything you've done, but... Stop! I held up my hand. Just stop. You want to know what I've done? I saved you from eviction. I bought you a house. I moved to the basement so you could have the master bedroom. I paid for baby shower decorations for a party I wasn't invited to. And what did I get in return? Silence. I got treated like a tenant in my own house. I got charged rent to live in my own basement. I got my belongings thrown away and my space taken over. I stood up. So yeah, I'm selling. The closing is next Friday. Next Friday? Mom's face went white. That's only 10 days? 11, actually. Colton's face was turning red. You can't do this. We'll fight it. We'll get a lawyer. With what money? I asked. And fight what, exactly? My right to sell my own property? We have rights, he shouted. Tenant rights. You're not tenants. You never signed a lease. You never paid rent. You're guests who overstayed their welcome. Marlene, please. Yesenia wiped her eyes. Think about the baby, your niece or nephew. Don't you want them to have a stable home? I want them to have parents who can provide for them instead of expecting everyone else to do it. The room fell silent except for Yesenia's sniffling. Where are we supposed to get the money for a deposit and first month's rent? Dad asked quietly. The same place you got money before I bailed you out. We don't have anywhere to go, Mom whispered. You'll figure it out. You always do. I started to leave the kitchen, but Colton grabbed my arm. This is about more than the house, isn't it? His voice was low, dangerous. This is about you being jealous that Mom and Dad love me more. I looked down at his hand on my arm, then back at his face. Let go of me. You've always been jealous, always resented that I was the favorite. Colton, Dad warned. No, let's get this out in the open, Colton continued. You're doing this because you're bitter and alone and you can't stand seeing other people happy. I yanked my arm free. You think I'm doing this because I'm jealous? Aren't you? I laughed and the sound was sharp enough to cut glass. Colton, I'm not jealous of you. I pity you. You're 25 years old with no job, no savings, and a baby on the way. You live off other people's generosity and throw tantrums when it runs out. Why would I be jealous of that? His face went from red to purple. At least I have people who love me. Do you? Or do you have people who enable you because it's easier than dealing with your tantrums? That's enough. Mom stepped between us. Both of you, stop it. No, Mom, let him finish. I crossed my arms. What else do you want to say, Colton? Get it all out. You're going to regret this, he said, his voice shaking with rage. When you're sitting alone in some crappy apartment with no family, no one who cares about you, you're going to remember this moment and regret it for the rest of your life. Maybe, I said. But at least I'll be sitting in an apartment I can afford, surrounded by belongings that haven't been thrown away, not paying rent to live in my own home. I walked toward the basement stairs, then turned back. Oh, and Colton? The new owners take possession next Friday at noon. I'd start packing if I were you. The next morning I woke up to silence. No footsteps overhead, no running water, no coffee maker gurgling to life. I climbed the stairs to find the house empty except for a note on the kitchen counter in Mom's handwriting. Gone to stay with your Aunt Linda until we figure things out? Hope you're happy. Mom, I crumpled up the note and threw it in the trash. Then I called Riley. They're gone, I said when she answered. How do you feel? I looked around the kitchen, my kitchen, with its granite countertops and morning sunlight streaming through the windows. Free, I said. I feel free. The closing went smoothly. I signed papers while the buyers, a young couple with twin toddlers, gushed about the house's potential. They loved the nursery colors and planned to keep everything exactly as it was. The previous owners had such wonderful taste, the wife said, bouncing one of her daughters on her hip. I smiled and didn't correct her. Riley handed me the cashier's check and I stared at the number. More money than I'd ever seen in one place. Congratulations, she said. You're officially a free woman. My new apartment was a 10th floor corner unit with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the city skyline. No basement, no concrete walls, no pipes running overhead, just light and space and silence when I wanted it. Celeste helped me unpack, opening boxes I'd rescued from storage before the family could throw away more of my belongings. Look what I found, she said, pulling out my college diploma. Guess this didn't make it to the donation pile. They kept my accounting textbooks instead, I said, hanging the diploma on the living room wall where everyone could see it. Of course they did. Celeste shook her head. Have you heard from them? Radio silence, complete radio silence. Good, let them stew. We ordered Chinese takeout and ate it on my new couch while watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. My phone sat silent on the coffee table. Any regrets? Celeste asked. I looked around my apartment, my space, my rules, my peace, and shook my head. Not one. The silence lasted 3 weeks. I was making coffee on a Saturday morning when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. The message was long, carefully worded and signed Mom. Marlene, I hope you're doing well. We're staying with Linda for now, but it's crowded with the baby coming. Colton found a part-time job at a warehouse, and Yesenia is applying for assistance programs. We know you're angry and maybe we didn't handle things perfectly, but we're family. Family forgives. Could we meet for coffee? I miss my daughter. Please don't let pride keep us apart forever. I read it twice, then set the phone down and finished making my coffee. An hour later, it buzzed again. This time the message was from Colton's number. Look, I said some things I shouldn't have. We all did. But this has gone too far. Yesenia is stressed about the baby. Mom cries every night, and Dad's blood pressure is through the roof. You made your point. Can we please just talk? I deleted both messages without responding. Sunday brought a third message, this one from Dad. Marlene, your mother is beside herself. Whatever we did wrong, we're sorry. Please call us. We love you. I blocked all their numbers. Riley called that afternoon with news. The buyers want to know if you'd be interested in selling some of the furniture that was left behind. Apparently there's a crib and changing table they'd love to keep. They can have it all, I said. I don't want any of it. Even the rocking chair, it's a nice piece. Especially the rocking chair. That evening I was reading on my balcony when my building's concierge called. Ms. Marlene, there's a woman here to see you. Says she's your mother. My stomach dropped. Tell her I'm not available. She says it's important. Something about a grandchild. Tell her I said no. 10 minutes later, the concierge called again. She's still here. She's crying pretty loudly in the lobby. Other residents are starting to complain. I closed my book and took the elevator downstairs. Mom was sitting in one of the lobby's leather chairs, tissues scattered around her feet. She looked smaller than I remembered, older. When she saw me, her face lit up with desperate hope. Marlene, oh, sweetheart, I knew you need to leave. Her face crumpled. Please, just 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking. You had months to treat me like family. You chose not to. We made mistakes, she said, standing up, but we can fix this. We can all sit down and work things out. There's nothing to work out. You made your choices and I made mine. But the baby is not my responsibility. Mom's voice rose, echoing in the marble lobby. How can you be so cold? This is your family. My family charged me rent to live in my own house, I said quietly. My family threw away my belongings and gave away my bedroom. My family treated me like a tenant instead of a daughter. We didn't mean... Yes, you did. You meant every bit of it. I turned toward the elevator. Don't come here again. Marlene, wait. She grabbed my arm just like Colton had. You can't just cut us off forever. I looked down at her hand, then back at her face. Watch me. The elevator doors closed on her tear-streaked face. Back in my apartment, I poured myself a glass of wine and stood on the balcony, watching the city lights twinkle below. My phone buzzed with another unknown number, probably Aunt Linda's phone. I turned it off without looking. The next morning, I woke up to complete silence. No crying, no begging, no guilt trips. Just the sound of my coffee maker and the distant hum of traffic 10 floors below. I made breakfast, read the news, and got ready for work. Normal things, peaceful things. My phone stayed off all day. When I finally turned it back on that evening, there were 17 missed calls and 12 voicemails. I deleted them all without listening. Then I changed my number. Some bridges, once burned, aren't meant to be rebuilt. Some families aren't worth the price of admission. And sometimes the best revenge is simply walking away and never looking back. I was finally free, and I intended to stay that way.